April 28th, 2022. I found yesterday this show called it's Naval and then New York or NY, but I don't know how to pronounce it. That's the gentleman's name. He was on, the film is on CNN. It says it's on CNN. There's something in here of Rogam, which again, apparently he was poisoned. Now, here's the difference. He was poisoned on an airplane, so you're not expecting this attack. You're just going to wherever you're going. And then, but he woke up. They called his wife, the one person that actually loves and cares for him. And he had before and he has after a face, which he calls Putin. And then he has this agency that they call FSB in Russia, which is where he was. They took him to Germany. As far as I know, in New York, there's a faceless enemy or nameless enemy, and there's this faceless, nameless agency of some sort, and you start to deteriorate after things have been done to you, and it's like they just disappear. I mean, at least this gentleman, in order to start an investigation, he met somebody on Twitter or whatever, and the Twitter person knew how to data mine, found some faces, put this whole thing together, put a map, and I mean, like, they go through this whole thing because they made a video out of it on, like, professional video. But in America, doesn't work the same. You get hurt, and it's like some secret whatever knows about it, but I wouldn't know what their face, name, or agency, what any of the labels that they use. I wouldn't know who to contact. I don't know who to follow up with. They just like disappeared, like as if it never happened or they never wanted it to be discoverable. This is like very packaged and like, well, if this happened to him, which I don't dispute that it did, at least he had an avenue to do these things, to investigate. He says, I know where they live, I know where they work. In America, I don't have the same luxury.
When we discovered this clandestine operation, it was so shocking that even to us it looked unbelievable. I mean, come on. The government is paying a whole team of 20 plus people whose only job is to poison other Russians? That sounds improbable. So we needed other journalists to look at it.
I would like to share the limelight with some global media so that it is validated by more than just us.
Yeah.
So CNN and Spiegel are fine with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That means that we need to film exactly like a week from now, maybe.
Привет, это Навальный. Я знаю, кто меня хотел убить. Я знаю, где они живут. Я знаю, где они работают. Я знаю их настоящие имена.
So again, so they have this, and then this apparently is known about in other places, and then this morning in America, the only thing that they, in their freedom of the press and all their freedoms that they tout as that they actually have and live by, they have something now called long COVID that they're admitting exists. And this is the gentleman, what's really the key up word is, he says, it's like Alka-Seltzer in water. It's like fizzy, almost like foamy, fizzy, and that's the feeling.
Alaska.
Welcome back to CBS Mornings. For millions of people who've gotten COVID, some symptoms lurk and linger for months, even years, including body aches, brain fog, and heart palpitations. It's called long COVID, and it's affecting some people on Capitol Hill. One of them, Senator Tim Kaine. He's on a mission to seek help for Americans like him. Scott McFarland joins us with Senator Kaine's story. Very interesting he's coming forward now. Scott, good morning.
Tony, good morning to you. 2 years into the pandemic, members of Congress acknowledge they're coming up short when it comes to helping patients with long COVID, Senator Kaine included, who says this is personal to him.
Literally the day I got COVID, I just felt like my nerve endings all woke up. They'd all had 5 cups of coffee, and they were just tingling and buzzing 24/7, and that's never gone away.
Tim Kaine came close to being a heartbeat away from the presidency in 2016. Then in spring 2020, the former Democratic vice presidential nominee
I've never heard of this man before, just so we're clear.
and current Virginia senator became one of the first prominent politicians to test positive for COVID. Now, nearly 2 years later, he's still fighting it. What does it feel like?
I feel like you drop an Alka-Seltzer in the water and just watch it fizz. It kind of feels like that. It just kind of feels like a fizzing or buzzing nonstop.
In your hands, in your feet?
Oh, everywhere. So, I mean, I can feel it in the tip of my forehead right now. I can feel it along the tops of my legs.
His symptoms are distinctive, but patients reporting long COVID symptoms are not at all unique. Others experience brain fog, persistent cough, and permanent loss of taste or smell, affecting up to 23 million Americans.
I used to exercise with my dad every morning at 5 o'clock before I went to work. It was a whole routine.
Maddie Smith is one of them, the Marion, Virginia mom of 3 boys and traveling nurse who says more than a year after contracting the virus, it's still a fight to lift herself out of bed each morning.
The worst part for me thus far is the COVID fatigue. And that was one of the worst symptoms I had when I had COVID. And I guess I kept thinking it would get better, and it's never gotten better.
Smith needs an inhaler for breathing troubles, but for months wouldn't tell anyone, worried she'd be viewed as a complainer. You're suggesting people with long COVID may be hesitant to say it?
Absolutely.
Concerned about the reaction?
I think they're concerned they won't be taken seriously.
Earlier this month, the White House announced plans to boost research into long.
I went for a follow-up with Dr. Woolwick today. I told him about my abdomen. I told him about the problem with bending over to tie my shoes, almost like my organs getting in the way. Don't know what that's all about, but it causes shortness of breath. He said to go back to the original surgeon. I said, that's not possible. I don't have the money. So he said his suggestion was to call the original surgeon and ask him if he could recommend somebody, but that takes insurance.
COVID and possible treatments. Senator Kaine has proposed a new law that goes even further to fund more research and compile a more accurate count of long COVID patients and help people get access to care, including in rural America. Just over the Virginia border in eastern Tennessee, nurse practitioner Pam Poore says her long COVID patients often need to see neurologists for memory problems or cardiologists for heart symptoms in an area where specialists are difficult to find.
We have so many patients that need to be referred to specialists, but the waiting lists are long.
There's another hurdle in this area. Vaccine hesitancy remains rampant, and many are reluctant to seek tests or care for symptoms that aren't life-threatening. Senator Kaine says his legislation would also require the CDC to reach out to people experiencing potential long COVID symptoms and encourage them to seek treatment.
Some don't even want to admit it, like, man, COVID was bad enough. Maybe I did tell somebody and they didn't believe me, or they told me it was just anxiety.
It's in your head.
Yeah, somebody told me, I told my doctor, hey, I've lost my sense of taste or smell, haven't gotten it back in a year. Okay, how about an anxiety medication? No, I'm not anxious. I'm a happy person. I just can't smell or taste anything.
Yeah, the doctors at this level, they're not real helpful. Like, it's just they're very dismissive. They just brush you off. It's really frustrating. So getting to results that are driven by what's needed, I feel like this long COVID is this new umbrella where it's possible that there's some change in the environment, whether it be some nerve gas like release either by car driving through a neighborhood, whether it's airplane overhead, I'm not quite sure. But there's effects that's going on in the regular public. There are physical changes, physiological changes that we're all suffering from. Brain fog, inability to carry memory here and there. I think it also has a lot to do with like a hyperdimensional, like matrix almost. Like I was listening to the radio on the way home from the doctor, and then Tesla was on, or Joe Rogan was on, speaking about Elon Musk, and I found him fascinating because he's like, I think I'm so smart. He says, and then I speak to Elon Musk. He's like, and then I realize, whatever. And it's kind of like having that outside perspective. Like, people do know more. It's just a matter of how much involved do they want to get, or how much do they really want to acknowledge. And then there's the whole communication aspect of it, technological communication, where they have the tunnels and the channels on some computerized program that are causing a problem in like in a quantum realm of things, least spoken of, but does affect everything we do on a whole nother level. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.